What's happening? West High School Cross Country, Coach G here for this week in cross country, week 6, post GHSA Dead Week edition. So, hope you had a nice 4th of July week. A lot of you I talked to already spent some time up at the lake, got a chance to hang out with family and friends and do all the good patriotic celebrations of the freedoms in our country, which is amazing. And we should be so thankful and grateful for the place that we live and the opportunities that it provides for us. As far as like catching up with what's going on cross country this week, well, it's Tuesday. So if you already missed Monday and you weren't at practice, you didn't know what that workout was, but we did a 20-minute tempo. We're going to keep doing a lot of tempo-based work this time of year. You get your very best bang for your buck in terms of trying to create aerobic development, but without like beating you up and putting too much stress on your bodies as we start to get accustomed to running more frequently, and start growing accustomed to running more mileage than what we've done in a little while. So that's what we did on Monday. Tomorrow and Wednesday, if you're at practice, we're going to go down into the lower fields, assuming that it's like not soaking wet and thunderstorming and muddy, but maybe even if it's muddy, as long as it's not thunderstorming. We're going to go down to the lower field at Wfhsxc High School, going to map out like a approximate 400-meter grass loop. And you say like, hey, we've got this perfectly good track and it's 400 meters long. Why would we go down onto the grass pit? Well, I have a good answer for you. The reason why we're going to go to the grass pit is because most cross country is run on soft surfaces. It's not always grass. Sometimes it's gravel, dirt, um, even a little concrete here and there, depending upon the course that we go to. But for the most part, it's on an uneven surface that's softer than what a track is. And we need to start getting our bodies used to being able to try to run at pace on a surface that isn't just perfect like a track is. There's plenty of time for doing that in the spring when track season rolls around. But for now, we need to start transitioning as much as we can off to soft surfaces for workouts. So the workout is we're going to attempt to run 400s, so a quarter of a mile, at what you feel like is your 5K race pace. So that's a little over 3 miles. And we're going to have to do good due diligence to make sure we don't go faster. Most of the time, when, like if you've done track, either in high school or middle school, and you say we're going to do a 400s workout, you're thinking about going fast. You're thinking about going mile race pace, maybe 2 mile race pace, sometimes even 800 race pace for a lap. But for cross country, for these 400s that we're doing, this is our first introduction to what it feels like to run at kind of the tempo and the cadence of 5K race pace. Why is that important? Well, because in about a month, we're going to have to run our first 5K race. So it's time to just dip our toe into the waters, into that area a little bit as the season goes on, as we get closer and closer to the season, and as we get into the season, the interval length, the distance of the repetition that we'll run will get a little longer. So for now, it's only a 400 because we're not really trying to get you really ready to race now. We just want to introduce you to what that tempo and that cadence feels like. But as we get later into the season, we'll start doing 800s, we'll do 1,000 meters, we'll do mile repeats. Um, just to stretch out that amount of time that you're having to spend running at that cadence and more get your body close and ready to be able to run a full 3 miles at that race pace. So the workout shouldn't be all that hard. And you're going to run with a partner and you're going to hand off to two partners. So you'll kind of line up in groups of four. People who think that they're at about the same ability, two will go run their lap. When they come around, they'll hand off to two who will then run their lap, lap. And we will do that continuously for 30 minutes, which means each of you is only going to be running 5K race pace for about 15 minutes. And other than Diego, we don't really have anybody on our team who can run a 5K in 15 minutes. So you will be running a distance shorter than 5K at 5K race pace in little increments of 400 meters with a 400-meter rest in between. Um, Thursday, normal easy running, but prior to the run, we're going to do a little bit of speed development stuff. Nothing long, just some kind of short sprinty stuff because we want to stay in touch with those fast twitch muscle fibers, which will help us. be able to go out hard in races and not feel weird about doing it, and also be able to finish really hard. Other than that, it'll be regular easy mileage. And if you're not going to be at practice, those sprints should either be on a steep hill where you're going to sprint for 7 seconds and have a nice, easy walking recovery, or you'll be on a field or street or a sidewalk or whatever, someplace you can find that's about 100 meters. And if you can't find 100 meters, then find a place where you can run that's pretty flat for about 15 seconds. And we'll ask you to run pretty fast. So mile race pace or faster. Maybe maybe kind of if you're going to do 6 reps, maybe do the first couple mile-ish race pace, and then as you go along, maybe get a little bit faster. Where the last two are getting after it pretty good. So we'll do a little bit of speed development. Friday at Matt Park is our regular Frisbee Friday, Popsicle Friday, a shorter run for sure. And then Saturday, we're going to Bowling Park, which is out in Canton, Georgia. It's right next to the campus for Cherokee High School. And they have a flat gravel grinder loop that well, I don't know if most of you these days, because we haven't raced there in a while, but some of you for sure have raced there before. And then off of the grinder gravel flat trails, there are like good trails, like through the woods, like dirt and roots and by a river and up and down hills or flat, like depending upon however you want to go. So another good place for us to get off soft surfaces. Um, no need to carpool on this one. We'll give you more instructions on where to park and all that sort of stuff. There's plenty of parking space down there, but it's a little further than some of the places that we go to run. So you might want to carpool just so that you don't have to drive so far by yourself. That might be more fun that way. So that's the game plan for the week. And since we're going to do a workout at 5K race pace, this is going to be the first time where we start really asking you to try to accomplish anything at pace. Most of what we've done so far this year has been kind of by feel, tempo-ish, which means like run to the point to where you're breathing pretty hard and only can spit out words in a couple of sentences, but not so hard to where you're just like panting, like out of breath, like you're going to pass out or whatever. But we're going to start introducing pace. So for those of you who are like, gosh, I have no idea what kind of pace to run or what I'm capable of doing at 5K, I've got something on the website that can be some help. And it'll be more help as the season goes on for sure, but it can be a little bit of help as you're thinking about what to do on Wednesday. So it's a chart that's based off of a bunch of numbers that I've gotten off the Mile Split website on actual high school runners in the state of Georgia. And it compares kind of what their race capability was last spring for like the 1600 and the 3200. And you can kind of line those up with training paces across the line. So we have several different training paces that you should start to become familiar with, and we'll start talking about a little bit more frequently. One is just like regular everyday training pace. Now, the longer that we go and the slower that we go, the more kind of variation there is on sort of how specific we need to be with paces. And we definitely don't want anybody so like worried about pace to where you're just running along staring at your watch the whole time, or you're kind of getting after each other all the time because like, oh, you're too slow, you're too fast, you're too slow, you're too fast. Um, because regular everyday training pace, there's a pretty good window. So maybe like 15 or 20 seconds plus or minus. So if you go look on the chart and it says like, okay, I am a 6 minute miler, which says I should be doing my regular everyday runs. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Let's say it's 9 minute mile pace. That means like some days if it's nice cool weather and you're feeling good and it's a pretty flat course that you're running on, like if you want to go run 840 or 845, like that's fine. Like you're not in trouble. You're not doing anything bad for your body. And then conversely, if you're on a day where it's 85 degrees with 85% humidity and you just got out of the car after coming back from vacation and it's a hilly run, well, sometimes going and running 9 minute miles might feel a lot harder. So your heart rate may be working as hard at something like 9:15 or 9:20 pace as it would be at 9 minute pace on like a regular day where conditions were better. So, but that kind of general game plan, plus or minus 20, 25 seconds, somewhere in that kind of zone, is kind of where we want you to be on a regular basis. Doesn't mean sometimes you're not going to run a little faster. Doesn't mean sometimes you're going to be feeling kind of ooky and decide to run a little bit slower. But we don't want you to be consistently way outside of that zone, because if you're consistently running a lot faster than that zone, what you're going to discover is when it comes time to do hard days, you're not going to have the juice in your legs to be able to execute the workouts, which prepares you to race. And then when you get to race day, you might find that you're feeling flat or your legs are feeling heavy. You're not feeling as good as you should be. So you definitely don't want to overrun like on a consistent basis your normal regular regeneration days. Um, but conversely, you don't want to run significantly slower. Like if you're supposed to be like a around about 9 minute mile and you're running 10 minutes consistently on your easy days, you're not really working hard enough. You are not challenging your aerobic system enough to get the bang for the bucks that you should be able to get out of those miles. And when you start running quite a bit slower than what the pace is that should feel natural to you, where your body's kind of in a good rhythm, um, your mechanics change a little bit and you can kind of plod and be kind of heavy in your footfalls and create more stress in your body from your feet and your ankles all the way up through the biokinetic chain into your knees and calves and quads and hips and all that other sort of stuff. So start thinking about what that regular everyday pace should be and keep each other honest. Don't tattle, don't complain, don't be looking at your watch, but just in general, like you should have an idea about what pace you should be running on regular days. And then for the 5K race pace, God, we kind of don't, for some of you, we really don't know. And even for a lot of our returning veterans, we don't know what kind of 5K shape you're in because it's been a hot minute since you ran 5K. But if you want to go across that pace chart and say, like, okay, during track season, I ran 5 minutes for the mile and I ran 11 minutes for 2 miles. And that says that I should be in shape to be able to run around whatever the number is. Let's say it says you should be able to run 17:30 for 5K or whatever. It will tell you what that pace is per mile, and therefore you'll have a good idea when you break that down, divided by four, gets you to 400. I mean, it's not exactly a mile, 1,609 meters as opposed to 1,600 meters, but it's close enough, right? So if it says like, hey, my 5K race pace should be 6 minutes a mile, then I know I need to do 90 seconds approximately plus or minus for the 400s. The shorter the interval gets, the closer you want to be to hit the pace. So, like I said before, if on a regular easy regeneration day, you've got this window of plus or minus, 20 or 25 seconds on either side, that gives you a lot of flexibility. And we want you to have that flexibility. If we were doing mile repeats, we want to get that a little closer. We would like to have your mile repeats be within sort of plus or minus 5 seconds one way or the other on average. Doesn't mean that occasionally one might be a little slower, a little faster, but that's kind of a good zone. When you get down to something as short as a 400, we'd like to get those pretty close. We'd like to get them, plus or minus a couple of seconds. Not because it's like absolutely important. And if you don't quite do exactly whatever your target is, that you're a failure and your workout was terrible and all that other sort of stuff. But it just kind of helps get you more in the zone. Because if you start missing a 400 by 5 seconds over a mile, that turns into 20 seconds. And that's too big a gap on something where you're trying to hit a specific pace, especially as we're learning 5K race pace so that you can kind of get ingrained in your brain what that tempo feels like, how quickly your legs are turning over, how hard you're breathing, what your arms are doing, so that when it comes time for race pace, you'll kind of know what that feels like. And you won't make the mistake that most high school cross country runners do, and especially most cross country runners do in their first race, which is go out way too hard because they feel great and they're excited and they're all full of adrenaline, and then be on the fade bus and not enjoy the rest of your race and not feel good about what you're doing. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to send a remind that will have a link to the place on the website that has whatever that pace chart is. Going to ask you to start to become familiar with it. Start thinking about what that everyday training pace should be. And then for tomorrow, when you're doing those repeat 400s at 5K race pace, you should have in your mind an idea of what that should feel like. If you're not going to be at practice and you're someplace where you can do this workout on your own, pretty easy to do. Um, Go find yourself a road that's not heavily trafficked or a trail or a bike path or whatever. If your rep's going to last I don't know if you're doing 6 minute miles, it's going to last 90 seconds. Go out there and run 90 seconds and then rest 90 seconds and then turn around and run back to where you started and rest 90 seconds and then turn around and run back the other direction for 90 seconds. So it would be the same as if you were doing partners because you're getting the same amount of rest. And you don't have to, you only have to measure out one segment that's 90 seconds long as opposed to, running along a greenway and then every 90 seconds just kind of having to stop and look at your watch and wait 90 seconds. I mean, you can do it however you want, but all right, that's it for this week. I do not have any updates on what our total mileage is. Last time we decided we could go all the way to Italy, but since last week I don't know what you did because it was GHSA Dead Week and we didn't capture mileage or whatever. Then I can't add up whatever that total is. But we'll assume it's further. You're further away. Maybe we're in Moscow. Maybe we can talk some sense into those folks over there that are in the middle of a war. Okay. Anyway, let's not do politics. Coach G, signing off. Bye.